Good morning, FlossTube. It is May 16th, Saturday. My name is Deb, or Deborah, scienceknitster on Ravelry, Instagram, Twitter. That's pretty much all my social media. I'm on Facebook, but that's just for family. Anyway, this is my third podcast, FlossTube podcast. And I wanted to start off saying thank you to everyone who's subscribed. I had several new subscribers this week too, and that's very gratifying. Not what I expected at all. I am enjoying doing these, so hopefully I can keep doing them on a weekly basis. I don't have a lot of new stuff to show you this week because it's, I teach at a local college. I'm also a department chair, so I've been, and it was finals week. So I got my finals graded, but I still need to finish my faculty evaluations. So, so that's keeping me busy, plus some other things that are due at the end of the semester have been keeping me busy, making sure, especially new faculty, know how to do our assessments properly and all that kind of stuff. It takes up some time, but actually, often that's an enjoyable part of the job, just especially with the newer people, helping them learn what we need them to do, and then making sure the folks that have been with us for several years remember what to do, that kind of stuff. But anyway, I did get some stitching in this week, not as much as I wanted, but I did get some in. And so let me show you my Mer-Maynia StitchSania. If this is the first time you're watching, for StitchSania, I am doing what I'm calling Mer-Maynia, which was inspired by stitching with Reecie. So you should check out her videos too. Actually, there's lots, just search on FlossTube. There's lots, search FlossTube on YouTube if you're new to this. There's lots of really fun and interesting folks out there, and their work is just beautiful. I can't keep up. There's just so many good FlossTubes out there. It's like, there's a few that as soon as they pop up, I watch, or I watch as soon as I have time. And the rest, I'm just trying to try out new people, and so it's been wonderful coming back to cross stitch. I've been cross stitching, well, I've been stitching for, I've been stitching for over 50 years. My grandmother taught me to embroider when I was about 6 or 7. So, okay, more than 50 years. I just turned 59 a couple weeks ago. Anyway, I enjoy all kinds of needlework, and I had never stopped stitching, cross stitch, red work, needlepoint, all kinds of needlework, but I had really gotten into knitting about almost 15 years ago now, while I was going through breast cancer treatment. It was just easier to take along. I had a lot of trouble with my eyes weeping. I think I might have mentioned some of this in my first video, so if you're a return viewer, sorry. Anyway, so I really got into knitting with all the hand-dyed yarns and all that kind of stuff. So although I never stopped stitching, I really wasn't connected that much to the stitching community. It was just easier for knitting because of Ravelry. And so when I got introduced to FlossTube like a year or two ago by my BFF, Susan. Susan 4057 on Instagram. She does beautiful work, guys. Go check out her Instagram feed. Like me, she's multi-craftual, so we enable each other terribly. Like if one of us tries something, the other one has to do it. It's just the way it is. But there are a few things that, like, oh no, I'm not into that. Like Susan likes samplers, but she's not into them as much as I am. And then I'm really into red work embroidery, which Susan isn't into so much. So I mean, we don't do everything together, but we usually, if one of us tries something, the other one at least tries it, because that's just how it is. Anyway, I'm rambling terribly, but So Susan told me about FlossTube, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll check that out. And finally, this over winter break, I started watching some FlossTubes, and then there was, you know, I kind of was hit or miss. And then when COVID happened and we were on spring break, when COVID happened, I had more time to watch, and so I really got hooked and got back into stitching between FlossTube and the fact that I've been having trouble with my right wrist being sore. Pretty much anything I do, I end up twisting my wrist, whether it's using a mouse on the computer or knitting or stitching. So I can stitch left-handed. I'm right-handed. Knitting I can't do with one hand. So I've been limiting my knitting. I do have just a little bit of progress to show you today. So, but I've been stitching up a storm because, as we all know, our crafts help us keep sane when things are happening. It got me through knitting and some stitching, got me through my cancer treatment 13 years ago. It's helping me get through this. So this is my progress for this week. This week's mermaid. So my Mer-Maynia StitchSania. So I'm doing a more sane version of StitchMania. I picked out 5 different patterns with mermaids in them. And this one is Mermaid Fraktur by Plum Street Sampler. Helps if I turn it up right, doesn't it? This is probably the piece that inspired me to do Mer-Maynia, because I saw it and I was like, ooh, I have several others. And when Stitching with Reecie said something about Mer-Maynia on one of her podcasts, her FlossTubes, was like, oh yeah, I could do that Plum Street one, and I need to order that. And then I've got all these other mermaids. So this is the one that I worked on this week. I was hoping to finish the mermaid completely, but considering how busy I was this week, I think I'm happy with my progress. I'm not going to beat myself up because that WORK thing got in the way of my stitching. Actually, I enjoy my job, so work isn't really a 4-letter word to me. My other progress, I stitched on this sampler that I'm doing. It's one of the Hands Across the Sea Little Gems that they're releasing periodically online. Let me see if I can find the picture. Here's the picture. Okay, so it's Mary Eliza McMillan, 1869. Get the date right this time. So I am working on the strawberry area down here. Let's see, do I have that? Yes, I got that up the correct way. Okay, yeah, if you saw my first video, you saw how close I am to the edge. I'm gonna do this as a wall hanging. I'm not gonna frame it. It's okay. This is what I had to stitch when I wanted to start this. It's 28 Count Legacy from Picture This Plus. I was in their club one year and this is what I had. I would have preferred to stitch it on smaller count, but I really love the color of this fabric, so I need to get some more in other stitch counts. But so I got in this strawberry here and the area around it. Let's just say the base and some of the leaves got stitched twice because I miscounted. So I wasn't paying attention. I did this, most of this I got done while I was on a webinar yesterday. There was a webinar I needed to listen to for work on hope and resilience and how to instill that in our students. So it was very inspiring and thought-provoking webinar. So I was glad I could get on that. I had the time, well, I made the time to get on that webinar, and I used the time to stitch because I was just a participant in terms of watching. I didn't have to contribute to the conversation, so to speak. So I was able to get some stitching done. I did want to show you some purchases that not in the mail. I didn't actually order anything this week. I promised Susan I wouldn't get anything new and start anything new except my mermaid. And it was hard because there was something else I wanted to start, but I didn't. It's one of the another Hands Across the Sea sampler, Ann Roberts, that I showed last week. Anyway, I have the last couple of weeks purchased some PDF downloads from Etsy shops because I got an Etsy certificate from my dad for my birthday. And actually even before then I had purchased some because some folks had some sales a couple weeks ago. And then, you know, you see things on Instagram and you just need them because. So I forgot to show a couple of these previously, so I'm going to show them now. This one might be a little bit hard to see. I'll try to do links this time. The first 2 times I just wanted to get the videos up, and so I just wrote what it was. I didn't actually make links, but I think I'm going to try to do show notes in Word with links, hyperlinks, and then paste it into the description. See if I actually do that. That's my plan anyway. So this is Modern Folk Embroideries Real Comfort, a Jane Austen sampler. And I love Jane Austen, so I had to have this. It's apparently meant to be stitched all in one color. This is the cover page. I believe it is black and white because I thought I had set up my printer to print in color when I was printing this from my phone last night so I could show you. But I would really like to stitch this. I just need to decide. I think the model was stitched in a dark black or dark color. I don't think I'm gonna do that. I might do it in red because I do like red work, which isn't exactly the same thing, but anyway, I haven't decided what color I want to stitch it in, but I do want to stitch this. And then I can't remember if this was like on sale or a free. I think it was on sale. I think Not Forgotten Farms was having a sale in March or April. I can't remember. I guess it was April because I bought this late April. So this is their Feeding the Bees. I love bee skeps and stuff like that. So that's this one. Don't know when I'm going to stitch it, but I actually printed out the whole pattern because I think I will stitch it relatively soon. And then I got to stop watching FlossTube. I want to buy everything and stitch everything. But, okay. So yes, I love red work. This isn't exactly red work. But I do love red work, which is a form of embroidery, but I love it even when it's in cross stitch. So when Brenda and the Serial Starter mentioned this red sampler, and this is from Amanda May McNaughton, Art of Design, Amanda May McNaughton. There's a companion one now for saucers. Okay, so it's not just that it's red, it's teacups. Okay, I haven't explained this before because I haven't had the opportunity, but there are certain things that I feel compelled to buy if a design has teacups in it, or is like a calendar, or is seasonal or something like that. There's like something inside me that's like, you gotta have that. So I had to have that. The saucer one didn't float my boat as much. I don't know if I'll get that one or not, but so apparently there is a law that says you have to have a red sampler in your whips. So I am not in compliance with the law, so I need to start this soon. I do have red work that is in progress, but it's not a sampler. I guess I could make it a sampler, but technically it's not a sampler. But this is just too cute. I had to have it. So that is going to get stitched this year, probably. And then, like I said, I need to stop watching FlossTube. Julie McConnell, Reflections, Stitching and Framing. I'm loving her chart of the day. If you haven't watched it, she is so funny. And what's even better, and this is what, I can't remember who, I think it was Michelle Bendy Stitchy, had mentioned that that Julie is really good with color. And she is. I mean, you watch her videos and she shows you, if she has all the colors and the fabric in the shop, she'll show, you know, this is what the designer intended, but you could try this and you could try this. And if for some designs, like if it's really bright, she'll do a prim version, and, you know, and she'll put it on different fabrics. She'll put the threads on different fabrics, and it's just fascinating to watch, because that's not something that's I feel is in my bailiwick to choose colors like that and figure out what goes with what. It's something I often like dither over for long periods of time if I have to choose my own. But I'm getting better about it. I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone. But anyway, long story short, a couple days ago, she had Beth Twist Heartstring Samplery, Victoria's Garden. And I just fell in love with it. I love the colors. Beth actually has this on her Etsy shop as a download, PDF download. So I went ahead and bought it. When I'm gonna stitch it, I have no idea. But someday, because this is beautiful. And I'm not sure which one of these, it's a reproduction. And I didn't read to see which one's the reproduction, which one is the original, but it's just gorgeous. I love the colors. It's just, so decided some of my birthday money was getting spent on this. Okay, so that's it for purchases. I thought before I do that, a knitting segue. I'm working on the Hitchhiker. I don't even know how many of these I've knit. They're a nice thing to have on the needles when you just need a mindless knit, you know, for a meeting or whatever. So I'm trying to do at least one tooth a week. I did the first couple last week, and then let's see, I think I got to about here last week. So I did this one this week. I'll be honest, most of it got done this morning just so I could say I did something on this. But with my wrist, I'm trying to be careful. Some days are better than others. I think a lot of it is how much computer work I'm having to do, how much editing I'm having to do with the mouse and whatnot. But I'm just trying to be careful because I don't want to blow it out to the point where I'm going to have surgery or something. And I think I forgot last week to show my project bag. This is from Dancing Sheep. It's actually, this is an old one. I don't think she has this fabric anymore. This is like, I forget when I bought this from her. More than 10 years ago, let's just say, okay? But she always has beautiful fabrics, and I'm not sure how many bags she has right now because she's stitching a lot of masks. She lives in the Seattle area, so she's stitching a lot of masks. God bless her. And I mean that sincerely. So shout out to Katie, Dancing Sheep. Go check out her Etsy shop. Like I said, I'm not sure what she has. I should have checked before I came on. But I love her bags. This is one of her one skein project bags. She has larger ones for larger projects. Okay, so I thought since I didn't have a whole lot to show you that what I could show you before I show you what I've started this week for, I'd show you a few older whips, but things I been working on this spring, just haven't worked on, like say, since I started doing these. And my phone just told me that Nicole's Needlework has her next podcast, her FlossTube up. So as soon as I'm done with this, I'm watching that one. Anyway, so I'd like to stitch in season, and the problem is if I don't finish it in time, then it's kind of like, oh, XYZ is over. I'm not sure, and I'm on to the next holiday. So it is still the Easter season, although it is freaking hot down here already. The Easter religious season still goes on until the end of the month. So I still have a chance to finish this, but this is make sure I get the name right. This is Spring Hair Etching by Cecilia Turner of Heart in Hand. And this was an experiment in stitching over one. It was okay. This is on 28 count with one strand of Classic Colorworks, sorry. I did change the colors. My colors are for the brown is Caterpillar, and for the pink is Ripe Melon, because that's what I had, and I thought it went nice on this. It's not showing up as pink as it is in real life. Let's see if I can, no, it's just, it is a darker pink in real life. This is Picture This Plus Mesa. So I had some, and so I decided to try this. I didn't mind doing the over one in this area here, but these little motifs are not as much fun for some reason. I don't know why, but they're not. So I had kind of put this aside for a bit. Let me show you the picture. This was in the spring issue of Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher, page 18. So there's Cecilia's version, and she did not do hers over one. I had just decided I wanted something really small and I wanted to do it over one. So that's what I decided to do. Okay. And then another thing I've been working on a bit this spring. I had been working on this on Sundays before I started Mer-Maynia. And this is a kitty cottage sampler from Little House Needleworks. And I did actually change the colors up quite a bit. She charted it all in DMC, and I changed it to mainly Classic Colorworks, but some weak dye works, and I even some gentle art. So what I did is I pulled the DMCs, and then I just got out this isn't all the colors because I took some off, but yeah, my threads are a mess. But I just decided I wanted to do it in overdyes. So and then the fabric is, let's see, I wrote it down. Country French Latte. It is 32 count. The chart called for 28 count clay from Zweigert. I think once Mer-Maynia is over, I will get back to that, at least on Sundays, and just, you know, make slow progress. So I love kitties, and I love samplers, so it's perfect. So I don't want this to go on forever, so I think I'll just show those. And now, oh, actually there is one more that I want to show, except that I forgot to bring the pattern over. So I'll show it next week. Sorry about that. I thought I was all ready, but I am not completely. Okay, so what did I start last night for Mer-Maynia? This was what I was going to start last week if my fabric for the Plum Street hadn't come in. Oh, and I should say for the Plum Street, I'm doing it on the called for linen with the called for threads. My bad. So here's Brightneedles, Under the Sea. And I've mentioned before, excuse me, I wish they were still designing, but they are not. So, but there's the little mermaid. So I barely got a start. I got the anchor done. I was thinking about starting in the corner because I often start in the corner, but I didn't. This is, let me double this up to make it a little bit easier to see. That's pretty close. It's slightly darker and greener in real life. I could not get the called for fabric, which is Americana Blend by Arna Reproductions. I looked on the internet. I did several Google searches, and I think they don't do that color anymore. So this is Sea Lily. I believe it's Swigert Sea Lily. I got it from 123 Stitch. Anyway, so I got the anchor done, and I started, this is a little crab. I'm gonna work my way over to the mermaid will be over here. So I'll get the mermaid. What I started doing with these Mer-Maynia pieces is I wanted to try to at least get the mermaid done or mostly done as part of the project that week. So I am using all the called for threads, except that for the ones that called for some of the colors, they have, the model was done with anchor, and others DMC, and then there's some Gentle Art, some weeks dye work, some Kreinic milk paints. Here's for all the threads. And I used the DMC for all the non-over dye. So anything that was anchor, I used the DMC. So not much progress so far, because, well, number one, I didn't have a lot of stitching time yesterday. What stitching time I had during the day, during that webinar, I spent on my sampler because it was already started and I didn't really need to count. I'm wondering what this thread goes to. I'll find out. So I just got stitching on this last night, and then I don't know, not completely awake, I think. This anchor, I actually had it going this way. So I would have had to turn everything around, or the anchor would have been upside down, or I don't know. So in order to make everything fit, because I had already cut the fabric, I had to take out the anchor and restitch it. And then I put in the crab, and by then it was, I forget what time it was. It was getting to be pretty late for me. I think it was already after 11. And normally I would try to go to bed between 10 and 11. Lately I've been staying, like, because I just needed decompress time and to get to do some stitching to help me decompress before being able to settle down and go to sleep. I've been staying up way later than that. I normally get up at between 5 and 6, like around 5:30. Not on the weekends. Weekends I sleep in until like 6 o'clock. So anyway, so not much progress. Sorry. I should have more stitching time this week. Okay. So I did want to mention a couple of the knitwear designers that there are two that I decided this spring, because they started doing Patreon. I decided to support them on Patreon. Basically, I'm able to support them at a level that, you know, the cost of a latte or a little bit more, like, okay, the cost of 2 lattes. Well, I usually get venti, so the cost of a latte, it pretty much is what I'm doing for a month. Like I can make my own latte, right? And that's actually what I've been doing because I'm trying to social distance and stay home. Even though our governor says we don't have to anymore. Not going there. So anyway, excuse me. So I mentioned one last week, Knitting Fairy, my friend Knitting Fairy, and she is doing a knit along right now with one of her, she did a re-release of one of her patterns. I think it's pronounced Thalassophile or Thalassophile. So you can see that. I think this is the newer version, a smaller version, one skein version. It's a beautiful lace shawl. She's doing it through her Patreon, but you don't have to be a patron in order to participate in the knit along. So I'll have a link to info on that, I hope. And then the other one I wanted to mention is my friend Renee Callahan, East London Knit, is doing a knit along with her new sweater design called Piosa. So let me, so you can see. So it's like, I hate cutting off Renee's head. That is Renee. But that's her sweater, Piosa. And she has a podcast, a regular podcast, so check her out. I'll try to put links to the knit along info as well as her podcast. And as a patron, one of the things she does for her patrons is she sends them a little postcard of her own art. So this is the postcard that I got, and in the end of her latest video, well, I think that one's just for patrons, sorry. She showed herself making these, so it was interesting to see her process. Anyway, and as a patron, I also have access to podcasts that are only for patrons. So every other one is only for patrons, and you get to see a lot of, or hear a lot of the behind the scenes and where her designs come from, things like that. So it's really interesting. And then with the Knitting Fairy, let's see if I can show a little more of this. Anyway, with hers, you do get discounts on her patterns and things like that. She does have some content in her Patreon account that's just for patrons. Like I said, although she's doing her knit along through Patreon, it's not just for patrons. So check those guys out. Disclosure, okay, they're both my friends, right? And I got to know them through being involved in different knitting things, but I used to be Renee's tech editor. When she first started out, I tech edited several of her patterns. So or maybe not first started out, but early on. So I wish I still had time to do that. I enjoyed tech editing, especially working with new designers, helping them figure out the best way to say things. And you know, I would just make suggestions. It was up to them how, you know, whether they wanted to take them or not. And then I, you know, checked the math and all that kind of stuff. And it was very enjoyable. I just don't have time to do that anymore. I've enjoyed both working with the designers and be connected to the fiber, you know, some part of the fiber industry by doing that. And I hope someday to go back to that, but right now just don't have time to be able to do things, to turn around things in a timely manner. And so about a year and a half ago, I decided I needed to not take any more tech editing. So unfortunately, anyway, so I think that's pretty much it for this week. I somehow have managed to fill in a whole half hour again. I did want to just have a short, you know, one of my public service announcements. As a scientist, I feel it's important, and I think something that we as scientists don't do well enough is help people understand how science works and how it's different from other disciplines. I think of science as kind of being in between like math, where you do a proof and like, okay, this is the answer, right? Versus something in the humanities like history or literature, where there's a lot of interpretation, an opinion. In science, good scientists will base their opinions on evidence. Evidence from our observations, evidence from experiments. So I think it's sometimes, and those opinions are basically what the average person thinks of as scientific proof. Like, so when a scientist has proof of something, that doesn't mean that's exactly the way it is. And I think that's frustrating for people because we want an answer, right? We want to know this is how it is. This is how it works. You do this, you get that result. But often in science, it isn't that way. So we base our policy decisions that are based in science, and anything medical or with the environment or those kinds of things need to be science-based. The problem is we do a new experiment. It gives us a different answer. It turns us in a different direction. And so we have to change the policy. And then people are like, well, but you said it was this way. And so I think there's, a lot of frustration in terms of, well, why, how come you don't know the answer? How come you don't know the truth? Well, all we can do is give you the best advice we can based on the evidence we have. So I've been seeing in some of, on Facebook especially, a lot of people like, well, they're telling us to wear masks now, but 5 weeks ago, Fauci was saying we didn't have to wear masks. Well, the evidence at that point, we didn't know what percentage of the population was asymptomatic, no symptoms, and spreading the virus without knowing it. We had some handle on how long the incubation period could be, it could be up to 2 weeks. And you could not have symptoms until basically the end of that time, but you would be during that time shedding the virus and spreading it. So we didn't have a good handle on some of the information that, as well as it wasn't definite exactly how it was being spread through droplets or some other way. And as that information came out, as that information became available, then the policy advice of people like Dr. Fauci and other medical and science experts that are experts in these kinds of viruses changed. That's how science works. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry, we as scientists can't always give you a definitive answer, but we have to go based on the evidence we have. Right? Science decisions are based, and the recommendations scientists make to policymakers are based on the evidence we have in hand. So sometimes things change. I want to end this by saying, this little public service announcement by saying, think about it this way. For millennia, people thought that the sun revolved around the earth rather than the earth going around the sun. Were they stupid? No. They observed the movement of the sun and the moon, and that was their best explanation for what they saw. It wasn't until we had telescopes and people could watch the movements of the planets and other heavenly bodies, different stars and so forth, and really keep track of them, we were able to understand, no, the better explanation is that the sun is in the center of the solar system and the planets, including Earth, revolve around it. So that's just, I think, an example that most people can see from their own experience, how science works, right? The evidence we have, we interpret it. We interpret the evidence the best we can, but a new experiment, more information comes out, and how we look at the solar system, for instance, changes. So please don't get frustrated if recommendations change. Just try to keep up with the information. As we learn more about this virus, things may change again, right? We're just the scientists are basing their best recommendations to policymakers on the evidence that they have. That's how science works. Okay, get off my science soapbox, and thank you for watching and thank you for listening. And Please be kind to yourself and your neighbors. Take care of yourselves, and I hope to see you next week. I do plan to do another one next week. Hopefully things will start quieting down now, so I'll get a little more stitching and maybe a little more knitting time in and have more to show you. And this is long enough, so I'll just say goodbye. Thank you.